foolish mortals.
Hello there. Are you insane? Get out of here!
Remain seated with your seatbelt fastened.
Right, off you go.
Welcome to Average Joe Orlando. Hello, theme park goers. Welcome to another front row review and advice. And this one is on Disneyland Paris, formerly known as Euro Disney. Going to talk a little bit about some of the history of the parks, also some of their hotels, and actually, I'm saying a lot. Let's not start there. I did recently my fourth trip over to Disneyland Paris. So I got to experience this park 4 times. Out of all the parks I've been to Disney World, can't even count how many. Disneyland for 2 different trips, and then Tokyo Disney for 1 trip. So Disneyland Paris is actually, out of the parks that I've been to, out of the 4 out of the 6, I got to go to this one 4 times. Now, I did this one years ago, probably about 10 plus years ago. It was my first time going, staying off site, and then went for the 30th recently when they did the big Dream and Shine Brighter, and that was kind of like my next time going back since they've redone everything, and stayed also off site. And then my past 2 times, going last year and then this year, I've stayed at 2 of the hotels. So got to get a little bit of an idea of what the hotels offer, some of the positives, some of the negatives, and also some of the ways to kind of find your way around the park. Because it is different. Every park is different. Tokyo, I'm definitely going to do one about that because I've learned a lot going to Tokyo and all the different nuances you have to go. Disney World and Disneyland, pretty similar. Obviously, there are differences with the lightning lanes and everything. Here is Premier Access, which we will talk about. But enough rambling. Let's kind of dive in. So it opened as Euro Disney in 1992. And upon opening, Michael Eisner was the CEO and wanted all these hotels to be built. He didn't want later on to have hotels. And so it opened with 7 hotels. So you opened a theme park, the Disney Village, which is basically like the downtown Disney Springs, so the small shopping area, and 7 hotels. Unfortunately, the park did not do well when it opened, and a lot of the hotels kind of remained empty for a while. So it is interesting to kind of think like, oh yeah, that park was kind of just sitting there. It's not really doing much. Then in 2002, apparently it was contractually that every 10 years they had to make another park, so they had to build a second park. Financially, the park wasn't doing well, so they kind of threw together the second park called the Disney Studios, the Walt Disney Studios. And it is always known as, and still known as, the worst Disney park ever built. It is a budget cut central. It is a lot of just block buildings and really weird, kind of like a Hollywood studio. So you have Disneyland Park, which is the main park, which is extremely detailed. You could tell they spent a ton of money on this one. You enter coming through the Disneyland Hotel and you go underneath it and you enter at Main Street, and it has Sleeping Beauty's French Chateau, which is on a hillside, which to me is the most unique and pretty castle. Underneath, there is a dragon that guards the castle. The lands are enormous as you start walking through, especially, I would say, Frontierland, or I guess that's Westernland, and also Adventureland. It's huge and just keeps going back, and you realize, wow, they have so much property here. And then you go next door to the park, to the Walt Disney Studios, and it is pretty rough. And I remember when I went years ago, they had Lights, Motors, Action, which is where it started. If you remember that one from Hollywood Studios. They had Rock and Roller Coaster, which was essentially just like this cheap little facade in the front. They had an Armageddon, which you kind of stood there and watched everything kind of blow up. They threw in the Tower of Terror, 2 stage shows, and that was really it. Then they started adding more things like Crush's Coaster. They added in Toy Story Playland. The Ratatouille ride started there. That was the first one before Epcot got it. They had a backlot tour, which they changed to Cars Road Trip, which we'll talk about later. And they kept trying to reinvent it. Now the park is going to be completely redone. It's even getting a new name. It's going to be called Adventure World, which I think is a terrible name. I think it should be called Cinemagique, but that's just me. But this is going to be basically changed to a new park with a Frozen Land and a Lion King land also. So currently, if you're planning a trip this year, which is 2025, at the time of recording, it's going to be a lot of walls and a lot of construction. It's going to slowly be opening in 2026 with the new Frozen Land, with the expansive lakefront, and then later on down the road, the Lion King land. It's funny because they originally, if you look at the concept art, had a Star Wars land on there, but I think they realized maybe guests don't care as much about Star Wars over there, but they do like Lion King in France. And so I think it's pretty exciting they're going to have that. But yeah, 2 parks, 7 hotels, and the Disney Village. The 7 hotels are broken up into different categories. So there is the Disneyland Hotel. This hotel recently just got renovated, and I learned recently that a lot of their hotels have not been renovated since 1992. Apparently, just a few years ago, the Walt Disney Company seized control again over the parks. Didn't realize this was the thing, but I guess they didn't really have it, and the parks were kind of being run down. Nothing has been updated since 1992. If you go now, you'll notice what has not been updated, and it has that old Disney charm. There is a store over at the Disney Village that I got to go into, and it reminds me of the old Disney store look, which is cool, but it also looks kind of dirty. So you can kind of see like the old 90s Disney along with the newer modern. So it's in a weird transition phase right now, Disneyland. So the Disneyland Hotel, they basically gutted that one. That is the big pink hotel, kind of like the Grand Floridian at the entrance, and completely redid it to like the princess themes. It's very pretty. They did a very good job. However, it's very expensive. And some advice I wanted to give was that if you go online to book a trip, they sell them everything as packages. So you can't just buy, I think I want to stay at the hotel for 4 nights, but only go to the parks for 2. Everything comes together as a package, which is very interesting. Makes it a little more convenient. However, if you are staying for 2 nights, you have 3 days worth of tickets. It's for your day you check in and the day you check out. It all comes together as a package. So for me, I was like, well, we're not going to go every day. Let me book it separately. You have to call to do that. And to call, it's an international number, and you can try the chat online. I've done the chat where I talked to somebody over there. They were super friendly, and they said, unfortunately, our ticketing system, you have to call. And if you want to call it, it's international, so you're going to have to pay those fees if you don't have an international plan, which I definitely don't. So I skipped that and just kind of booked it. Their other hotel, which they recently redid, is Hotel New York, which they updated to called the Hotel New York, The Art of Marvel. And this is where I stayed on my most recent trip. And this one has completely been updated. I Googled what it looked like beforehand when it was kind of like just an old New York theme. And it was pretty dated. Now it's a Marvel overlay hotel, but I wouldn't say it's heavy Marvel. It's more of touches on Marvel, and it's more focused on the art and more of like that clean edge of it. I was so impressed by this hotel. I am not a giant Marvel fan, but I have to say I loved it. The hotel's rooms had a giant mirror on the wall when you walk in. However, there's a TV behind it, and it has all cartoons of like the Marvel characters. You can Chromecast to your TV, which I find a lot of hotels don't have. And it's nice to see, like, if you just want to watch Netflix because you don't want to watch, basically it's BBC and then everything else is in a different language. So it's nice to have that. The bathrooms were updated. The accommodations, they have a skyline bar, which was this cool bar in the lobby that had different windows that looked out on the city. And every once in a while you see Spider-Man go by or the Quinjet. See, I know Marvel things. There was another bar to the side, the Bleecker Street Lounge, I think it was called. The servers were all great. They had fun little bar bites. They had a lot of non-alcoholic beverages, which were great for me. They have 2 sit-down restaurants. One was a buffet. The other one was the Manhattan restaurant, which I got to try. Our concierge was able to make a reservation for us, no problem. Everybody was just really friendly, very easy, convenient. It was just so nice. It's right next to security to get into the Disney Village. So the day we got there, hopped in off the train, which is a very interesting thing. I've never seen the parking lots because not a lot of people drive. Some people do. They'll drive or they'll park at the parks or park at the hotel. But the train or the metro station is literally right under the park. And you pop up and it's all the public area. And then all of a sudden you cross into Disney property. And it's kind of neat because you just pop up and there you are. You're at the bus stop. And you could take the bus to the hotel or you could walk to the hotels. All the hotels, except for the Davy Crockett Ranch, are walkable. Some of them are much further than other ones, but you could just walk, and you could bring your suitcase through security, which is interesting. So coming from Disney World, where they don't really have that, where you could just walk in with a giant suitcase, I walked in with my giant 50-plus pound suitcase, and they put it through the scanner. You walk through, no problem. I will say you can't bring any liquids through. So we found, like, if you want to bring, like, a bottle of wine to your hotel, you can't bring that through. You have to take the bus. Unless you're staying at the Disneyland Hotel, and then they'll just ask you, and you could walk over there, because the Disneyland Hotel is inside the security area. All the other hotels are outside. My last visit, I stayed at the Sequoia Lodge. Now, the Sequoia Lodge, working down, is very similar to the Wilderness Lodge. However, picture Wilderness Lodge, but it wasn't updated since 1992. It was very pretty. It was cute. The rooms were dated, and it was a little rougher around the edges. It was fine for what it was. It was nice that it was on property. It was a little further of a walk, but not bad, but a little more dated. Their other one is the Newport Bay, which looks basically like the Yacht and Beach Club. Same thing, the rooms are a little more dated, not as bad as Sequoia, and a little bit more of a walk, but a fun theme over there. So that's the close one. So you have Disneyland Hotel, which is their top hotel. Then you have the Hotel New York, then Sequoia Lodge in Newport Bay, and then you can cross underneath the bridge, which takes you under the road, and they have their two cheaper hotels, the Hotel Cheyenne and the Santa Fe. Now, these are definitely older hotels, and these are definitely going to be dated. They have not been updated yet. The rumor is they keep working around. So they did Disneyland, they did New York, they did Davy Crockett recently. So hopefully some of them start getting some love. Cheyenne is kind of like that old Western town, and then Santa Fe, they did a little bit of a Cars layover, kind of like a motel kind of style. So cheaper, a little further away, but still at least on property, which means you get that early access to the park. So they do 1 hour a day. So for when I was there, it was at 8:30 every morning. I can get into the parks 9:30 for all other guests, which was really nice. And the parks do stay open a little bit later out there. And then their last hotel, as I mentioned, is the Davy Crockett Ranch, which is across the street. And that is more like cabins. Think about like wilderness, Fort Wilderness style. So 7 hotels. Rumor they are building an 8th. But you do have to book them online as a package, which is a little more difficult, a little more, I'd say a little confusing. But at the end of the day, it's nice because the newer hotels, so I noticed at the Hotel New York, you could do all online check-in, which is very interesting because you have to do a DocuSign. Completely different system than we have here in the States. But you go online, you fill out the DocuSign, and you can get a card, and you can be text if you want, and to go right up to your room, or you can get a hard physical card. If you're staying at Sequoia, it's 2 separate ones. So you can use your barcode on your phone to let yourself in the park, or you can, and you need a room key. So the hotels, like I said, are not all at the same level at this point. They do give you a digital park key, which is a QR code, and you basically let yourself into the parks. So they do a reservation system, but when you book the package, it automatically gives it to you, and then you could park hop at any time of the day. It's no 11 o'clock or 1 o'clock or no reservations after 2. Basically, you book your package, it gives you your park tickets, and you're free to go in whenever you like and hop around whenever you like, which was nice for that convenient factor, because you don't want to go all the way to Paris and then go, ooh, we're out of reservations, or ooh, I'm not able to get a ticket for this day. So for convenience alone, book the package and don't call and pay those international fees. You can let yourself into the park. So it's kind of like, think of like a metro station. So you scan your barcode, it kind of takes your picture. There's one cast member working every 3 or 5, and they just open up these little like glass doors and you walk right in, which is a very interesting system, but it's also super efficient, which I really liked. Never had to really wait to get into the parks. And then same thing when you walk out, the little doors open and you walk out. So no touch points and no turnstiles. And then you can hop back and forth, as I mentioned. They are super close once you are through security. So there are 3 security entrances, either by actually 4. Hotel New York has one right next to it. And they use the same kind of scanners where you kind of put down your phone, you walk through the metal detector, and then they also have a bag scanner on the side. So different than Disney World, kind of like Universal style. There's another one on the other side, closer to the McDonald's, and that's also for the hotels. And then there's one by the car drop-off. I did this one mainly when I came my first 2 times because I stayed down in Val d'Europe, which is kind of like a small town area, and they have a bunch of off-site hotels with buses and shuttles that will take you in. Super nice, convenient. However, the shuttles aren't constant for the hotels, and they usually all share shuttles. So be prepared to be waiting a little while, and then you have to wait at the bus stop to get on. You have to bring your suitcase too. So like you took the train, had to go through Disney security, then out of the other side of security, then to the bus stop, then to the hotel. So for the convenience, I will definitely stay in the parks. And then there's also the main security hub with a large one as soon as you get off the metro station. And then there's buses. So if you don't want to walk to the parks through the Disney Village, you could take a bus out the front, and they run every about 15 minutes, and they'll take you over to the bus stop, which then you go through the security by the metro. I will say for Hotel New York, Disneyland Hotel, definitely, because there's no buses. You are literally in the park. Sequoia and Newport Bay, just walk. It's probably 10-15 minute walk. You're going to wait longer just to get on the bus. The bus picks up at other hotels. When I did New York to take it back to the train station, with my suitcase, I took the bus and it stopped at Sequoia, then back, and it was literally within walking distance. So just walk if you don't mind. You're going to Disney. Be prepared. But if you go over to Disney Village, there are a lot of updates currently happening. You'll notice a big thing is the sidewalk changes right now. So you'll see the new clean-looking gray bricks that they're putting in, and then you'll see other areas where it's very like the 90s. It's funny because you'll see a lot of people pushing suitcases through the Disney Village, and I was one of them, and the bricks are not the easiest to push, especially the older ones. The newer ones are much easier what they're installing. It's like they know, a lot of our guests are coming. You could definitely tell I was from another country coming because I have a giant suitcase, and people coming from within Europe have those nice little small suitcases, so that's a goal. But a lot of updates happening, but there's a lot of different restaurants. So you still have Earl of Sandwich, which of course I ate at basically every day because, I went all the way to Paris to eat at Earl of Sandwich. And there's a McDonald's, a Rainforest Cafe. They just knocked down the Planet Hollywood. One of the big things there that the locals like that I did not try was Billy Bob's, which was supposed to be like the American place. They had a Chicago steakhouse, which I thought was interesting. So they accompanied Chicago with steakhouse. Billy Bob's was Texas, and they said that was Tex-Mex. And then the Hotel Manhattan was the New York place, and that was Italian. So it's funny to me to see like how they associate the America with different places. There's also a place called Sports Bar. That's the name of the bar, Sports Bar. It's currently under refurb. I went there on my second trip, and you sit outside, and it's basically like an American sports bar, and you can get nachos and beer and watch sports. So that's getting updated also. So it is fun going to another park, though, and kind of seeing how another park does everything, and then also how another park kind of changes it up a little bit from this park, and kind of how they see the United States or see America or their view. Another fun way to see that is going on. It's a small world in their park because unlike here, they have a whole North America section. So you go through like Mexico and Canada, and then it ends with New York, which is you have football and Hollywood and the Golden Gate Bridge and the Statue of Liberty. So basically what they think America is, which is fun. So it is fun to see the cultural differences also there. But yeah, there's a lot of different restaurants there. And there's some in the park, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But let's talk about rides. So you're probably like, okay, so what big rides do they have? What are they known for? Everything like that. So they don't really have a ton of rides, actually. And if you look at their list, they haven't had rides in a long time. And they're due for some new rides. So luckily they're getting it, but Adventure World's getting it, not their other park. So at the Disneyland park, the biggest one is, my favorite, is Phantom Manor, which is their version of the Haunted Mansion. And that's in their Frontierland-like section, Westernland. And the Frontierland has Big Thunder right next to it, which is on an island. And it goes underneath the water up and then is on like an island. So it's a very big ride, Big Thunder. Takes up the land. The storyline intertwines with Phantom Manor. Phantom Manor is the only Haunted Mansion like ride that you go through the front door. It is an elevator like in Disneyland where you go down. However, there is a whole theme with the bride, and then I believe it's her dad, I think, like kills the husband, and then you go underneath into the crypt, and it's all skeletons and bones, and then you're in an old Western section, spoiler alert. It's a very unique spin on the Haunted Mansion, and personally my favorite. Big Thunder, very, very busy, always crazy. If you like to pay for their Premier Access Pass, which is their version of Lightning Lane, you can on the app. However, it is a pay-per-ride system only, or you could buy like in groups, and it's much more expensive than it is here. So what I did for Big Thunder was just did the early morning and got there and literally ran there. I was one of those people, but that's the best way to do it. And then also for their park, Pirates is very good. Actually, my favorite Pirates out of all the ones that I've been on so far. So out of Tokyo, California, Florida, and Paris that I've been on, this is the best Pirates. It was kind of like a 2-level layer one. They have pirates that actually sword fight in one scene. Very cool. And their Space Mountain is a hyper Space Mountain in their Jules Verne type Discoveryland area. And this is a launch one that launches you up the side of the building with loops. Very cool. In their other park over in Walt Disney Studios. Crush's Coaster is their big one. Now, this is an indoor spinning roller coaster on the back of a turtle shell. It is a very low capacity ride, so it does move very slowly and has a very long wait. If you go to early morning hours there, everybody will run to this ride. They also have the Tower of Terror. However, it is a little bit different than ours or what used to be in Disneyland in California. It's a little creepy. It has that little girl in the whole scene, and she kind of goes, la, 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 la. It's creepy. It's very cool, very creepy. It's fun. And then they have an Avengers section of the park, also, which has the Spider-Man ride, same one as in California. And then they did a layover of their old rock and roller coaster into a Iron Man roller coaster, which Iron Man speaks French and Captain Marvel speaks English. So I kind of understood what was happening, but it's a roller coaster, so it's fine. For shows, now this is where they are known for. Disneyland Paris is definitely known as the show park. However, their shows are a little differently. They don't have them constantly going. They kind of run them in seasons. So before you go, if you're planning a trip, check to see what season, if they're taking a break, because of the different laws and because they definitely prioritize a good work-life balance, which is very cool. They will go on hiatus for a while. They have, my favorite show is Together, a Pixar musical over in their Walt Disney Studios park. This is the first one you'll see on the left-hand side. And this show has a full 8-piece orchestra, and the stage comes apart, and the curtains open up, and it's projection mapping, and I don't even know how to say it. It's a fantastic show. You just see it and you're like, this is a big budget show. They also have a Lion King show in their other park, in the Disney Land Park, and this one reminded me, I was like, oh, this is going to be like Festival Lion King. No, it's like acrobats and live singers, and they tell the story of the Lion King, but all through song. It's beautiful. This is a great show. And their other one, back in the other park, close to Together, is Mickey and the Magician. And this is kind of reminds me of a cruise ship style show, but it has an overlining story where Mickey is an apprentice and then kind of goes through different Disney classic stories. Now, they did have this past summer, and I'm hoping they're going to bring it back, is an Alice in Wonderland Alice Return to Wonderland. It's in their old Lights Motors Action Theater, and they converted into a BMX party style where they have bikes and they have trampolines and fire and all these different original songs. It was very big and over the top, very, very cool. And they also just premiered this year a new fireworks show in their main park called Tales of Magic. And they can't do big fireworks there like we can in Florida. They'll do smaller ones. So what they do is they incorporate a ton of drones, projection mapping down Main Street. They have fire effects, these giant lights, smoke. Main Street, it actually snows during the Beauty and the Beast section. It was fantastic. They do a really good job, and they really have harnessed, hey, let's take on drones and see what we could do with them. I've seen online that they've done one where a drone actually shot fire in one of the scenes. They did the Main Street Electrical Parade last year where the drones had sparklers attached to them. Very cool stuff. But entertainment is definitely where it's at. Unfortunately, it is not at food. There is not a lot of great food options. The restaurants are fine. You have to book them on the app or, make sure you do them beforehand. I've done Waltz on Main Street, which is literally you're sitting on Main Street on the second floor looking down. They do basically a lot of prefix menus where you pick hey, do you want this one that comes with a dessert or an appetizer in the meal or all three? Do you want a wine pairing? It's fine. To me, do just quick service. I'm not a big foodie anyway to begin with. The only thing I'm there for is those Mickey beignets. They literally have a beignet filled with Nutella, and they have them all over the park. And they are the best thing that you can get. Just go for them. And then if you're going during different times of the year, Halloween, they have a whole Halloween season they do. Christmas, they do it very well with their Christmas parade. And as I mentioned, all their drones that they really use. So entertainment is where it's at. I would say give it 2 to 3 days is all you need, especially since you could park up. 2 to 3 days is fine. It's about a 30-minute train ride outside of the city of Paris. So you could do a day trip out there and come back. Or you could just stay there on property, which is what I got to do. And as I mentioned, coming soon, Adventure World will be the new name of the second park with the Frozen Land and Lion King. But for my do's and don'ts, as I mentioned, don't expect tons of new rides. Kind of just the classics, nothing really new, but do see all their shows. Make sure that you check their calendar beforehand and get to their shows early. Don't expect to be right in Paris. Don't expect to be oh, there's the Eiffel Tower, and right behind it is Disney. As I mentioned, it's about a 30-minute train ride out of there. But do walk everywhere. Don't take the bus when you get to the hotels or anything. It isn't gigantic. It's a great size property, but it isn't super big that you need to hop on the bus, but they do have it there for convenience, which is great. But do your research beforehand, check everything, check the seasons, check what's going on, because they do have a lot of rotating shows and events. But it is a great park, and I really enjoyed it. And I will see you at the parks. Au revoir. Thanks for taking a ride with Average Joe Orlando.
You made it!
I knew you would. Is everyone okay? Hope you still want to open an account.
Say cheese! See you later!
Thanks, everybody. You were brilliant.
At this time, gather up your personal belongings and take your small grubs by their grubby little hands as you exit. Thank you.